Hey, happy Thursday. Y'all know it's my favorite day of the week. Listen, as we approach and prepare our kids for graduation season, which starts in May, the graduation ready series was dropped on my heart. Graduation season is typically a time where we celebrate our scholars for completing their coursework, excelling in their academics, getting to the finish line. We celebrate them in their life transition. We typically throw a cookout, bring and bear gifts and sometimes money. And then, if you really love the young person, what you typically ask them is, so what's your plan? What are you doing next? What you got up your sleeve? We anticipate that they would have a response. And before you have to ask the teen that you love that question, I'm spending the month of October talking about the graduation test. Is your child graduation ready beyond academics, beyond test preparedness, beyond community and civil service? Are they prepared? Are they prepared? And this is a topic that I feel is an underdeveloped conversation as it pertains to how we are mentally, socially, professionally, and personally preparing our kids for life after high school. And we're going to jump into it right after this introduction. I'm Lanita, hosting your favorite student success strategists, and parents and educational leaders hire me to help students devise a post-high school plan. The goal is that our kids are confident, competitive, and confident as they go after and pursue those big, bold, scary things that ultimately make you proud. So listen, for the month of October, we're talking about how we can prepare our children to be graduation ready beyond academics, beyond testing, beyond service. And tonight is essentially we are talking about my favorite subject, which is relationship building. Who is in your child's support tribe as they are transitioning into their first lifelike decision, whether that be college, military, trade school, whether that be starting a business, studying abroad, Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, whatever their decision is, who have they rallied along for them to join them? So I do this exercise with the students that I coach, and I have them write out every place, every organization, every school, every group they've been a part of. I have them listed out on paper. Based off of what they've been a part of, I have them go back and insert very notable persons who were supportive, encouraging, people who might have showed up for them for other occasions, who might have come out of another environment but came and support them somewhere else. I also ask them to think about the persons in your family and even your recruited family members, like your parents' friends, and other adults that you meet along the way who show up to support you, who often celebrate you in moments that matter. I ask them to think about persons who sometimes give you a call on holidays, particularly your birthday, without very little effort of you extending a hand out to have a relationship with them. They are often celebrating you. I have them do an inventory of all those persons. The most I've seen a student write down, and mind you, these students are between the ages of 14 and 17, 52 people. The lowest I've seen is in the early 30s. And I asked them, are you surprised at the number of persons that you've come in contact with who you've developed enough relationship with where you remember them, even if it were 10 years ago? You remember what they said, how they might have made you feel, what they might have done to support you. Are you surprised that you've met this many people? And they all say, absolutely. I'm very surprised. And I said, as you mature, you will meet more people. This list will quadruple. There'll be so many persons that come into your life, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes you go and recruit them, but you're responsible for nurturing those relationships. And I remind them of this saying, everyone says it's not what you know, it's who you know, because people can open doors for you. I believe it is not what you know, it's who knows you so well that in your absence, they would vouch for you, rally for you, size you up, put the stamp on you, however you want to classify it. But they know you so well. They know your character. They know your capabilities. They know that with them extending an arm or sharing who you are to them, that their own validation is not on the brim, or their own reputation is not on the edge or the ledge, because they are, quote, putting you on. And so relationships are, so instrumental. I have so many stories. I'll give you one. When I came home from college my freshman year, I was home. I didn't have a job, and I waited so late to apply that most of the summer opportunities were gone. So I remember picking up the Maryland Parks and Recreation's brochure, and I flipped to the back, and it said, call for summer employment opportunities. Now, summer camp starts in June, I think, like the last week in June. This was like the week before the last week. I knew I was beyond the deadline, but I called. And a man picked up the phone, and I can't remember what he said, but I remember what I said. I said, "Hi, I have your brochure that was mailed to my home. I'm a freshman in college. I'm interested in the summer employment opportunities that you have." He said, "Do you have a resume?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Can you email it over to me right now while we're on the phone?" I said, "Yes." Hold up. Pause for a second. Stay ready so you don't got to be ready. Okay, let me go back to my story. And he said, "Can you send it over to me while we're on the phone?" So I sent it over to him. Pause. I have an Apple. At the time, I did not have Microsoft Word. I was using Keynote. Not Keynote, the other one, the Word one. I sent it to him. He opened it up. He said, "The items in your file are poorly aligned." And I said, "I know. I apologize. I'm using a MacBook." He said, "Can you send it to me in a PDF?" I said, "Sure." So I saved it. That's how I learned that trick. So I saved it and resent it. And he said, "This looks really good." He said, "We don't have any slots open, actually. All of our camp counselor positions have been filled." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Then why you got me on this phone with you, sir?" And he said, "But I can tell you're very hungry. Are you able to come in tomorrow to do your fingerprinting?" I could have leaped for joy behind that phone. I said, "Yes, I can come in tomorrow." He said, "Great. I'll see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock," and gave me the address. Now, I don't know this man. I don't even know anything about being a camp counselor. All I know is that I need a little bit of change. So I was ready to do whatever that took. So I arrived at the Upper Marlboro Community Center, and I officially meet him. His name was Anthony Potts. It's the first time I met him. And he said, "Miss Holston, is that you out there?" Because I arrived about a few minutes early. And I said, "Yes, that's me." He came in and he said, "I want to start by saying I'm very impressed by your eagerness. And I really love your professionalism. I don't have any places to put you, but I'm going to find a place to put you. So I can tell you're going to work hard, right?" And I said, "Absolutely. I won't let you down." And I was, 19 when that occurred. And I worked for Parks and Recreation every summer. And every time I would see Mr. Potts, he would ask me, "How's it going?" He said, "You still keeping that professionalism?" "Absolutely, even though the kids driving me crazy." But it was a relationship that began because of how I guess I approached the opportunity. Now, when I see Mr. Potts, he is like leaping for joy. He's smiling in the inside. He always says, "I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you." Who would have thought? And I have a lot of stories like that, not like that in particular, but about how I've met people along the way and they've become a part of my support village. So I remember when I first wanted to launch and create my own program, the first person that I thought of was Mr. Potts. I emailed him and I said, "I have this idea. It's it's for profits. It's not for profit." And he gave me some suggestions. He offered a facility for use, and he told me to keep in touch. And today we still keep in touch by way of social media. Relationships are so critical. I have a lot of persons who God just sends my way. And I tell students all the time, there will be people who will cross your path. And if you aren't ready to receive them and or don't display like you want to receive them, they will continue walking. Sometimes we literally have to reach back out and grab the hands of those who are just showing us that they want to show up and support us. And one of the things that I have to remind students is that, people don't have to go the extra mile. They don't have to show up when you call. They don't have to buy the popcorn from the popcorn link. They don't have to come by the drive-by. But when they do, the best way to I guess, harness, keep, maintain, sustain those relationships is to make it reciprocal. And so tonight, the question that I want parents to ask their children, or the question that I want educators to ask the students that they teach, is who is required? Who do you need? What support do you need in your circle so that you can fulfill or achieve your big, bold dream? I want our kids to start thinking about who is necessary for me to harness. What kinds of relationships are necessary for me to harness so that I can go after that big, bold, scary thing? And the reason why I have to teach relationship building early is because my fear is that we will wait until we have a need to develop relationship. If we can teach our kids the compounded value of having a mass network, a genuine one, a reciprocal one, a valuable one, an intentional one that the student has built personally, they are armed for success in any area. I cannot tell you the number of students I meet each year. This year alone, I've probably privately coached about 25 students that I have worked with independently. And out of the 25 that I've worked with, only about maybe 6 or 5 of them have done their due diligence in keeping in touch. And I'm not discouraged by that, but what it shows me is that relationship building, no matter how much you teach it, it's a heart thing until it becomes a need thing. So I feel like we should always be helping our kids understand that and teaching them these skills early so that before they have the need to develop the relationship, they have them already. Listen, I'm going to show you this story by Deshauna Barber. I actually met her in 2019. She talks about how she got into pageantry by a woman that she met while she was working at Target at the age of 19. Check out this story.
United States of America. She asked me, "Were you born in this country?" And I was immediately offended. I put my hands on my hips and I said, "Yeah, I was born in this country." She then goes on to ask me, "How old are you?" I said, 19 years old. She says, "Are you married?" I said, "No, ma'am." She says, "Do you have any kids?" I said, "No, ma'am." "May I help you find something?" She then goes on to tell me something that changed my life forever. She says, "You look like you could be the next Miss USA." And I laughed at this woman hysterically. I said, "Lady, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going into my sophomore year at Virginia State. I'm about to commission in 3 years, go on active duty, be a military officer." Somehow, this crazy woman convinced me to meet her at Starbucks the very next day. She brought this foot-tall stack of pageant books, and she goes on to convince me to compete in my very first pageant. I compete in my first pageant 3 months later, and I lose. I go back the second year, compete in my state pageant, and I lose. I go back the third year, compete in my state pageant, and I lose. Go back the fourth year, compete in my state pageant, and lose. Go back the fifth year, compete in my state pageant, and lose. But guess what happens the sixth year? I lose. I called her on the phone 6 years after our Target conversation, and I said, "You told me I could be the next Miss USA." And she says, "Deshauna, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying." In June of 2015, this amazing, kind of cuckoo woman passes away from leukemia. In December 2015, I win Miss District of Columbia, USA. In June 2016, I'm crowned the first soldier to win Miss USA. And last January in Manila, Philippines, I walked the Miss Universe stage and placed top 9.
She was going to say I placed top 9 amongst 89 different countries, I believe. So I apologize that that got cut off. But the moral of the story, if you didn't think that that was powerful, was that there was someone who, well, first, it is kind of cuckoo that a person would approach you in a grocery store, ask you those very intrusive questions, only to follow up and say, I feel like you could. Like the person had a vision for them. Like I see something in you that could be. And I've had that happen to me as well. I've had persons that I did not know, who might have been in the same environment as me, come up and say, hey, I see you doing this, or I see an opportunity for you to excel in this area. Basically, they had a vision that I didn't have. And not a lot, that's only happened twice, but both of those things that were shared with me have come to pass. So I say that to say sometimes when our children or your child comes in contact with persons who are visionaries, they could see something in your child. And sometimes we don't want to receive what people say out of fear. We say, oh, no, not me. Who could do that? That ain't going to be me. Or we discredit what the person is saying because we don't have a relationship with them. And I think it's an opportunity like Deshauna. Imagine if she would have said, that lady crazy. But she said she showed up to the Starbucks and the woman came with a binder. And the crazy thing is, the same thing, very similarly, happened to me. I was at an event. I've told you all this story before. For my job, I was doing a workshop for 6th grade students. After the workshop, a man approached me. He said, hey, I can tell you're very gifted at working with young people. Do you do something outside of this? Like, do you have your own message? And I said, no. He said, you'd be a great youth speaker. And I said, oh, okay. He's like, would you like to do lunch? And to me, that was a nice little transitional phrase, and he wasn't bad looking. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he just was interested in me, just had to find a little way to get in. But when I showed up for lunch, he came with a notebook. In Deshauna's story, she said the woman came with a binder. This man came with a notebook, and he said, I've written out a plan on how you can develop your platform as a youth speaker. And I'd like to start by doing a student leadership tour starting in Woodbridge, Virginia, at Woodbridge High School. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? I am not a youth speaker. I am 22. And I literally remember saying to him, who would listen to me? And I laughed. I laughed at myself in that instance. And he said, you'd be surprised. And he encouraged me. He said, I feel like there's a gifting inside of you that there's an opportunity for you to utilize it. He was like, what do you need? Do you need money? I can't make this up. We're still friends to this day, by the way. But again, someone seeing something in you, so powerful. And then, I showed up for the leadership conference. It was the first time I spoke. And I was nervous as heck. But after it was over, I felt like there was this switch in the inside that turned on. And I was like, I do like this. And that's literally how I started. So very similar to Deshauna, she began to do pageantry due to the woman that she met in Target. But I think the distinction in her story is that it took her years. I think she said even on the 6th time, she still did not win. And the person who had helped her, we would call her an ally. We talked about that in week 1. Those are persons who cheer, rally for us. They are encouragers, typically connectors. They're every kind of attribute that you would find to be supportive. That individual passed away, and then she had her big break for Miss USA in 2016, and then the medals just started coming. Sis just started winning. But I feel like I love that story because it's such a powerful illustration of when we respond to people who lend us their hand and say, I want to be a part of your journey, or I see something in you. And we receive those things, particularly if they are, we can discern that the person is well-intended and there's no motive there. Relationships are critical. I can't say that enough. So listen, whenever I'm traveling and I teach about our kids having an executive cabinet, I feel like just like the U.S. president has an executive cabinet, people who he has appointed, whom he trusts to be advised on about a specific thing, our kids should have executive cabinets. And of course, parents and teachers who are trusted, they should be a part of that. My parents are a part of my executive cabinet. Quite a few of my teachers and professors are former employers or bosses. Yes, definitely a part of my executive cabinet. A few spiritual leaders and church family members, and some real good girlfriends, a part of my executive cabinet. But if we're teaching relationship building very early, I think we should teach it from the lens of this. So take a look at this. Move out the way a little bit. So this is a map, right? There's a starting line, there's a finish line. The starting line is when our children graduate from high school. Now, you see there's one person there. The people whom are at the starting point are those who knew our child before they got to the life transition on the other side of the start line. So all the way up until now, those persons knew them. Well, after high school, your child, your baby, your teen, your student, they're transitioning into a new season of life. And sometimes the persons who started on the other side of the starting line, those persons over here, they may not be as equipped to support them on the other on the other side of the start line. And so your child will know that once they get there, they'll start having questions, concerns, they'll start having fears or sometimes barriers. They need other kinds of support. So it's not in the transition that they need it, but it's as they go along, you'll notice that more people are added on as you get closer to the finish line because you're approaching another life transition. And so when we transition from seasons of life, I feel that we should always, before the transition, we should be recruiting persons that we like, trust, love, and admire, who we can confide in, who we have seen the level of not success, but contentment with the path that they've taken themselves, and we could glean from some of their wisdom. We're responsible for recruiting them, and we're also responsible for teaching our children that. So I would say this. I know sometimes we want our kids, we only want them to come and get counsel from us. Like, don't go there and talk to them. They don't know. They don't know. I know. Ask me. And while you may be equipped to talk about some things, I highly doubt you are equipped to talk about all things. And so empower them to go out and seek relationships that are knowledgeable in wisdom and that are trustworthy, no motive, but that they discern, that are supportive of them and whom they're becoming. And so as they transition, you'll remember this after tonight, they are responsible for these relationships. Not you, they are. I feel like the biggest relationship that I have that has supported me on my journey is my relationship with Christ. The second biggest relationship is my relationship with my mom. And then my third biggest relationship is a group of persons who I decided to respond to them when they reached out to hold my hand in support. And I've been holding their hand ever since. So who's going to be those persons for your child as they matriculate, develop, evolve? Who can you introduce them to kind of nurture them, help them get past some speed bumps, even things they may not feel comfortable talking to you about? Remind them that life is not supposed to be done alone, and encourage them to build those relationships. If you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go somewhere far, go together. And I don't usually quote people, but I thought that was good to insert right there. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today as we're thinking about our children being graduation ready. Who have they recruited to be a part of their support tribe as they transition into their first life decision? Help them facilitate the start of those relationships and then encourage them to sustain it. I'm Lanita Holston, your favorite student success strategist, and I love you. I'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.